Okay, first of all, hi guys, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man? Good. How you doing?
I want to start in the beginning, so could you, this is for these two, John, could you, do you recall the first time you met each other?
Yeah, I think it was at a show. Was it at one of the...
Your band was playing.
Right. I was in a band and Shaun was dating our guitar player's sister. So I think she dragged him along, kicking and screaming to the show. But yeah, that would have been what, 1999.
Sean, do you remember what you thought of their music?
The music was good. It was a cover band, but what I really remembered most was that Dale had about 5 beers lined up on the side of the stage while he was playing bass. And yeah, I remember that he was having a great time. So
not much has changed.
Yeah.
No, Dale always has a good time.
Every time.
What kind of covers were you playing?
Barracuda.
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff.
They had a female vocalist.
Yeah, girl singer.
An acoustic guitar.
We split it up. We had some originals and some, played an original song, and then people would kind of watch and they were like, "Oh, here's a cover," and they're like, "Yeah, I love that song," So, yeah, it was fun. It was good.
And Sean, at that point, were you in a band of your own?
I started this band, or I joined another band, which became this band. I was a rhythm guitarist in a band with a female vocalist on keyboards, and then a guitarist, or a lead guitarist. I was a rhythm guitarist, and there was a bassist and a drummer. So it was sort of, at the time, I didn't really ever picture it going anywhere. But yeah, I was in that band, and he was in the band he was in. What was your band called?
No Offense.
No Offense. That's right. So we were in different bands, and I mean, at that point we pretty much we were writing originals, but we sounded terrible. So.
Well, when did the two of you then join up?
So what happened is the band I was in, there were 5 of us. Then 2 people basically got kicked out because we didn't feel like we needed them. I took over on vocals and became the guitarist. So we were a 3-piece band. That was in like June of 1999, and we played that way until December. And then in January, the bassist left, and his band was pretty much falling apart anyway. They were pretty much done, and he was the only bassist I knew. So I was like, "Hey man, do you want to play bass with us?" And he said, "Cool." I think we met him on a Sunday night at this bar called Bulldogs at the time, and a couple drinks, and then we gave him a tape with like 17 songs on. And the first time we played together was on stage at a show that Friday night, the week after that.
Yeah.
And he played all the songs. He didn't make any mistakes, so he's sort of just stuck around.
And those songs were those 17 songs ones you've written yourself?
Yeah, we played very few covers. I mean, I think we might have done 1 or 2, much like we do now. We will play a cover every once in a while, but the main focus was always to write original music, and to write our own music. So it was all songs that we had written.
The outlines of what became Seether were there?
Yeah. I mean, well, basically that was, once Dale joined it, that's basically, so in January of like 2000, that's basically when we started getting, towards what would ultimately be the lineup, I guess.
Okay, well, could you describe what it's like to start a rock band in South Africa? Because
it's as crappy as it is starting a band anywhere else. It's you start in a garage. When I was a kid, we played in a friend of mine's garage. And I played in a different band in the dude's living room. I think all of us have had that experience. You know what I mean? For us, when we this band was basically, I was at college and he was working for his dad. So we'd do it after that. It was like a nighttime thing. We'd meet up at the drummer's house and we'd rehearse at his house. And really, at the time, it was just more of just hanging out. It was just fun to hang out and play shows on the weekends. And we never figured it would really do anything. And then then as time went by, we got more momentum and more people coming to shows, and it became more and more of a viable option as a career. So I quit college and he quit working for his dad, and we just basically did it full time. Yeah.
When was the decision made to make the jump to America?
We got a phone call from our manager in June of 2001, and Wind Up Records had called and said they wanted to fly us out to New York for a showcase. So we flew to New York in July. We were there for 4 days. We played a showcase for them, and then afterwards they said they wanted to sign us. So we flew home, signed the contracts in September, and then basically moved over in January. And it wasn't necessarily that we had much of a choice in the move, but it was either move and do music or don't move and not do music. So it was really, again, it's like something that I've been wanting to do my whole life. It's not something that I can just then turn around and based on where it's going to be geographically that I'm going to be pissed about it. So, and we just we moved in, and the rest is pretty much history.
But I read in the bio that the decision wasn't made lightly.
No, it wasn't. I mean, obviously, it's not something you can't just say, well, I'm going to pack up my entire life, leave behind all my friends and family, and that's an easy decision. It was really tough, yet it still didn't feel like it was a decision. You know what I mean? It's like, it would have been stupid for me to say, oh, I'm not doing that. Yeah, it's like, it's the only thing I ran away from home to play in a band, But having said that, you ultimately you do make the choice. But it feels like when you weigh up the pros and the cons of the whole thing. I mean, my daughter was 2 months old when I left. So these are things that obviously sacrifices that had to be made to have a career. And would I do it again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat, I would do it again, because this is all I know. This is all I've ever wanted to do. And the opportunity was there. So that's why I guess. I say that there was really not much choice, but I mean, it was a really difficult choice to make, because on the one hand, like I say, you leave behind your country, your lifestyle, your friends, your family, everything. And on the other hand, it's like, well, but now I get to go and be in a band for a living, so.
Yeah, what were the expectations when the band went over?
From us, not much. We were excited. I don't think anybody expected anything. Certainly not the South Africans in general. The country sort of turned its back on us when we first left.
Was it noticeable? Did they? Was there some backlash? Or?
Yeah, there were people talking crap, and there were people that were jealous. It's that kind of thing. It's one of those things where, especially amongst the music industry, it was like, well, they're not South African anymore, and all this kind of thing. It's like. It's almost like people are afraid of somebody else being successful, because then it's just a massive jealousy thing. And when we were nobodies and we barely sort of played shows around, we had a lot more friends than we do now, because we found out who were the friends for real and who were the friends that weren't, and who were the jealous guys in other bands, because everyone thinks their band is better than our band, which is fine. It might be better than our band, but that's not for me to decide. So the press didn't give two shits about us. We were gone, and then suddenly, only when we came back for our first tour, like 4 or 5 years later, then suddenly people wanted to talk to us. And even now I do an interview with somebody at home, and it's like stupid questions that I've been asked for 10 years, like, do you prefer American jerky or South African biltong? I mean, for Christ's sake,
right?
Is that the best you can come up with? So. I still kind of feel like people just sort of out of sight, out of mind now. You know what I mean? And it's annoying, but I mean, I love South Africa, and when we go back, we have great shows, and the fans are awesome. It's the industry itself that needs to get its head out of its arse. Okay.
Well, in 2003, I believe, John, you joined the band. Had you heard of their music? Before?
Yeah. At the time, in the States, we had a channel called MTVX. And I remember Fine Again being played on there, so I was a little familiar with the band. But we had a kind of a mutual contact. I was in a band before Seether that had a sound engineer that began working for Seether then in 2002. So when they relocated to the States, and session guy did the first album, and then You know, it was the revolving door of drummers. Finally, they had an audition, and my buddy kind of like, I think you'd really fit with this band, and I think he was talking me up, and so I went and auditioned for the band in Dallas, Texas. They were in the middle of a tour at the time.
Yeah. So while our drummer was at the hotel, we auditioned for other guys.
It almost
Where's
sounds like
everybody
Spinal
at?
Tap.
Well, I mean, the guy was kind of a dick. And we tested John because we'd had two guys come in before him, and he was the last guy to come in, and it was a small little dingy room, and by the second guy being terrible, we opened a case of beers. By the time he came in, we were getting sauced, and so we said, at that point I'd said, well, we're not going to find the drummer today. Certainly not with the first two guys. It was such a disappointment. So to me, be kind of a dick, it was like he walks in and we started playing the most difficult songs of the 5 we had told him to learn. And he nailed them. So came in and it was exactly what we were looking for, like a hard-hitting drummer that's got solid timing and can play, and that was it. We went out right after that, and we had more drinks.
Yeah.
Basically said to him, hey man, we'll see you in a week.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Okay.
Bring a toothbrush.
Yeah. Bring it.
Yeah. So my first show was in like a little club in Riverside, California, and my second one was in front of 22,000 people in Mexico City, opening for Evanescence. So I was still listening to my iPod, learning songs and hitting the stage, getting ready to hit the stage.
Yeah, the first year of being in the band, we did more international stuff than he'd ever done before with his other bands.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But I believe it was The Nation.
I'm sorry?
Your previous band, was it
The
called
Nixons?
The Nixons?
Yeah.
Was it a big difference in terms of audience and touring?
Yeah, I mean, that band was sort of trial and error, The music was, alternative rock music, so I was familiar with, that style. Having grown up on opposite sides of the globe, we kind of have a lot of same musical, similarities, interests, and bands that we like. So they grew up on American music, so it's funny that we kind of have that connection when it comes to music.
Well,
So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Obviously you made a bunch of records, scored a lot of hits. But you say you've one of the motivations was to continually challenge yourself and to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back now, especially with this Greatest Hits album, how do you look back at the previous records, especially the earlier ones?
I think each one stands alone. I think that each album has a certain kind of vibe to it, and there's definitely growth that I can see over the years. When you take Disclaimer, which was basically half of the Sarin Gas album we had called Fragile, with some updates and new recording and the shiny American production. And the people argue that we aren't as heavy as we used to be, and I argue the opposite thing. I think that we've got more melodic, and I think the songs are better. I think that there's definitely heavier stuff now than we ever wrote before. I don't know. I definitely each one's got its place. It's like basically what it is. It's like a bookmark in our lives. You know what I mean? It's like, and this is where we were at in 2002, and this is where we were at in 2005, and this is where we were at in So they basically are just little historical documents of how we're feeling and how we're reacting. And I certainly see a lot of growth every time we do albums, and that can be either in songwriting structure, or it can be in technicality of the music, or it can be in lyrics or whatever. As long as we aren't just stamping it out and repeating the process every time exactly the same. And there are bands that do that. Bands to me that sound the same every single time, but that works for them. And for me, it doesn't. It's like as long as we retain the element that made us, heavy guitars, vocals, big drums, bass. As long as we keep that element, we'll always still be the same band. You know what I mean? But we have to push it to make it more interesting for ourselves as well. I mean, the last thing I want to do is now write something that I'm bored with. You know what I mean? Regardless of because we do this for ourselves. I mean, this has never really been about writing music for the fans. That's the fact that we have fans is cool because they like what we do for ourselves. And as soon as you try and write something for an audience, then I think you start losing whatever it is that makes you the band that you are. You know what I'm saying? If you write with a purpose, then you lose your direction, I think so.